What's up, folks? Thank you for clicking on the video. So in this one, we're going to do a little bit of headlight development. I'm going to try and start just updating a little bit more frequently in terms of the video of kind of the process of how I, basically through this YouTube channel, created a couple products for Corvettes, namely C5, but I have plans for C4, C5, and C6. And so basically I wanted to get into this video. Some of you guys that already have headlight kits sold by KnightDriveTV, you'll be interested in some of the things I'm talking about here. We're going to show some updates of what I've been working on and what's coming just ahead. So stick around, you're watching KnightDriveTV. I always wanted to build fast cars, so self-taught I started with engine swaps, composites in my apartment to multiple shops, tuning, fabrication, and more. 10 years later, the big times, SEMA, Speed TV, I climbed from nothing, but I lost it all. This is my new ride, KnightDriveTV.
Night drivers and drivettes.
So, yes, first we're going to start off with basically the stops. So, if you're not familiar with the headlight kit, it is a sleepy eye headlight kit. Basically, it rises the headlights up at a lower height than you would see ordinarily on the OEM C5 Corvette, which is a 97 through 2004 Corvette. They came kind of up in the air a bit, creates an aerodynamic kind of block in the wind. And plus the light output wasn't very good, and I think it just gave you a bit of an aged look. So I created this headlight kit basically in the end of 2020 and launched it in 2021. So it's been about a year and a half. Basically, I'm going to show a video here upcoming of all the financials, basically everything that I've done with the headlight kit. I'm transparent about this business. I know a lot of people have owned businesses, want to start businesses. I've had a number of automotive businesses in the past, so the transparency doesn't bother me. So I'm going to kind of do a full packaged video of basically how I launched this company through YouTube and through this channel, and basically what the numbers were, what the performance was, and how many kits we've sold and shipped to date. But basically, let's get to the details here. So the deal is, because they are sleepy eye, I basically weld these particular stops. I designed the entire kit. Most of it's 3D printed out of ABS plastic. But in the case of making the headlight stop, I had to create basically a metal stop that does that. So I TIG weld that using this machine that you see here. And then basically, each kit gets two. One bolts on each side. It comes with a jam nut system. And basically in the instruction video, I tell people to basically, come up to about 140 millimeters when you're installing them, do the jam nuts. So a couple of things that have kind of bothered me with this is some people are not as good at apparently like kind of adjusting exactly. See some lights sitting a little bit high, and that just kind of exaggerates the visibility down into the pockets and things. And that obviously we are talking about bezels upcoming. So what I wanted to do before I do bezels is I need to make sure everybody's headlights are in the same position. And I was trying to figure out how to exactly do this. I know some people can measure and get them accurately, but the jam nut system is tough because your hands are kind of squinched in there. So basically what I wanted to do is rework these stops. And I wanted to do that for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a lot of labor on my end. I have varying, I outsource the cutting of the steel. And so basically the clearances tend to vary a little bit. And so sometimes the tabs that are perpendicular to the plate slide right in. Sometimes I'm pounding them in. And it's just the time frame it takes, especially when we're getting to shipping. We ship once a week. So basically I produce the kits through the week. We have a bunch of machines that run 24/7 for the most part. I then go into assembly phase to where my brother does most of the assembly. And then we move into the shipping phase where Lace starts to box and ship. And so we ship 40 kits a week. And basically, in that process, I have to create labels, kind of do a lot of different things when the shipping process is going on. And one of them is come out here and weld these stops. So it was very important to me to kind of rework how these stops are done.
Haters on the other side, 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some angels with me.
So here we are looking at the back side of my driver's side headlight, and the cover is off. So this is the exposed portion after you take the cover off. And you can see this stop system is in here, and it's actually kind of hard to see. So there you go. You can see that that system is mounted in place, and it's distributing the load of the entire plate across it. So that's the intent. Okay, so let me add some power back those headlights, and you're just going to see I'm going to kind of wiggle this out of here. There are 2 tabs and that's it. I want to make the kits super simple, and as simple as I think this kit is to install and use. Unfortunately, some people are just not as handy as others, and the stops really become the core problem. So I want to eliminate the stops, and you see me waving some stuff around here. So now if you have the kit, you'll be familiar with these little dampers. These little dampers go kind of on the stop tabs in the back that are used by the factory, and they're hard ABS plastic. And even though I have printed these in 100% infill, the strength of the motors and things are very strong and actually cause these to fail. So I'm using a different material. This is like a polyurethane, basically. This is very tricky to run on my machines, but I have gotten to a process that basically allows me to use the factory positions and kind of bridge this, and the headlight actually comes to rest on this entire thing. And the key is instead of unbolting armatures and bolting in stops and using this jam nut and doing all this stuff, you would just slide this on, and this does the entire job. This will make the install so much easier for the kits that I have coming that you're going to see in the end of this video. And you know, I just really hope that it makes the experience of the installer a lot better. Yeah, so this is pretty critical for me to basically do the bezels. And you know, it's something I have to work into my system. I have done a lot of rearranging with all the machines. So if you're interested in 3D printing, things like that, I may do one whole video on all the 3D printing, basically everything I've gone through this entire process, 18 months. It's kind of requires a whole nother video. But basically, yeah, I kind of just sat down, designed these, kind of thought that the dampers were going to do the job. Some people had accidentally not even set their stops correctly, and the entire light was relying on the damper. So, you know, that is where the original stopping force comes from, is those 2 tabs. So this is within the design tolerance of what GM has there. It's just isolating it to 1, it's not strong enough. So distributing it to 2 and then adding that bridge to be sure, the way that it distributes the forces, I think it's going to work. So I'm going to need some testers. So some of you guys out there that either struggled with the stops, or some people that think, you know, maybe this is something you want to try because you use the headlights enough, I want to do a little durability testing. I can honestly say I do not think or foresee this material failing in any way in this application. So I think it's good to go. There's a couple of you out there that I talk to on kind of a frequent basis. Ray down in Florida, namely, I talked to him quite a bit. He's tested some things, and I had kind of a beta group. So basically that's going to go out, but let me show you some other changes. There has been some updates to the lights that I've implemented. All these were obviously wired in-house, basically as separate lights, but I have a new modular wiring system, and so that's something I'm going to show you guys. So basically what I'm showing you here is the way that I have been shipping this system. So this is a driver side. You can see the 2 outers here, they kind of come back in this direction. So we would wire these as such to where it kind of shipped. You know, we put a clean loom on there. This was your power for your halo and your headlight plugs. And so that's good, but if you had one individual light go bad, if that has not happened yet, but if it does, basically what I'm doing is having to send a full replacement, which is no big deal. It's something I knew I was going to have to do inevitably. So yes, basically all these are wired together, and because there's a bit of a direction to them, they almost have their own sides. Now typically you can kind of reorient them, but this I knew was going to be an issue long term. So what I wanted to change was to a different type of system, and I only have a partial here for a reason. This is a test kit I have, but basically what you could see here is every light has its own small plug. So basically what you could see is when I take this away, basically they have no specific identity anymore. This one can go in any of these areas, obviously, because universally they all have the same plug. What gives it its specific location is this would be your single high beam area, and so that would be here. And then we have a different type of plug. There's kind of a Y connector harness that goes here that would connect your lows. So what this allows me to do is now I have a singular connector and I have a dual. So if I go to a setup that has 4 lights, which is going to be the fixed light setup, then I have a harness to do that, 2 doubles, 2 lows, 2 highs. That's how we'll run that. Doing a kind of a quick view of the operation. I mean, it's very compacted in how we do these things. So basically, let me go over by the machines. So we're kind of in the back corner here. We've got two racks of 4 machines each. This was actually a continuation of this table. We basically came in here, kind of changed this up to add 4 more machines to this space. So I've got 4 accessible back here. We've got 4 waiting, 4 enclosures, and a bit of a wiring change I'm gonna have to do. And we've got 8 accessible through here. Same situation, so I have lots of filament. We go through lots of filament, obviously, ABS. It gets delivered. I use Sunlu. I've done a lot of tests on filament, and surprisingly, this always withstood durability the best and prints the best, so no failures whatsoever. Then over here, we have 8 more machines, obviously, and these are all kind of, running basically to speed up the process and to leave me capacity. So these machines here in this rack, as well as 2 others, will be dedicated to bezels. This is usually an area here. I just kind of, during the week, basically while kits are getting built, I'm running all the machines to get all the next week's plastics done. And then the kits are being built off-site. So the shipping area here is pretty basic. We use a lot of pick and pack foam from Uline boxes. We use obviously a kind of a wet tape configuration, but when the kits are built, they're lined up here and stacked. Lace basically works in this area here to package these and get them out. Obviously we have different stops, things that you need, shift bushings, harnesses, anything in particular. We have resistors here, hardware bags and things like that, stickers. And so we've kind of made this as compact and efficient as possible given the very limited amount of space. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do here is, I think for kind of just initial purposes, because I've had actually more difficulty trying to figure out if I like the squares or the rounds better. I did not think that was going to happen. The long lines, as maybe I'll illustrate here on the front of the C5, just the long straight lines, is what led me to the squares. And if you actually look at the C5 front end in the Bugatti Veyron, or the Bugatti Chiron rather, I really felt there were a lot of similarities in that frontal area that they have, just kind of a long wide mouths and things like that. And if the design worked for the Chiron, I felt like it would work for the C5. But in the Corvette world, inevitably, people are all about round this and round that. This has got to be round. The tail light's got to be round. In C4, when this very car came out, 1990 ZR1, they had the squircle tail lights, and the world went crazy because you're supposed to have round stuff on a Corvette. I've heard this with the C5 headlights. They're supposed to be round, despite the fact that, as you see here, GM put square headlights on them because it just worked with the body lines. So and NSX did it, and NSX again, very similar kind of front end, whatnot. So that being said, I was just not sure I was going to like the rounds, and I knew maybe the positioning, how the rounds kind of sat into the opening would have a lot to do with it. As you can see, the ACAs here, they're round, but they just look, I don't know, like they just look like some kind of animal or something. You know, there's just too much, and I'm like, I don't want that. I hope if the rounds can fit into here, into the area and the space I have to work with, that they would have kind of a mean look to them. So I worked you know, with the positioning of this. I did know I was going to do these rounds very long time ago, actually. So when I designed the squares, I did at least have the external dimensions of the housing of the rounds, and I positioned the squares in the bracket system and how it mounts to the car to allow enough space to mount the rounds. So the idea is if you had squares for, say, a year, and you decided, you know what, my lights are getting wore out, or one burns out, or something happens, then the idea is that I'd have other types of lights that would fit that housing. So as you see here, I do already have the rounds installed, and the reason I'm going to be changing them is, see, this was just a test fit. These are not wired yet, so let's go ahead and kind of sit that there. Okay, so we have the light removed and the bracket removed. So this is a newer version bracket. As you can see, I didn't have this wired, so just wanted to kind of get them in there and know that they fit and all that good stuff. I've just wired, obviously the kits don't come this way. This is just me kind of doing some prototype wiring, just quickie over here. My stuff doesn't need to look clean like y'all's does. Something I want to tell people about that have this kit already. So this adjuster is your left and right adjuster. And what I want to tell you about, so from the front view, what this adjuster actually does is pulls this light up into the center of the car. So to get everything directly level, the way that it's designed is, if you have too much pull this direction, and not only is it going to give it a slight up canter in this direction, it's going to put stress on this mount and the outer mount. It's going to pull on the outer mount here. So some people have had this issue. It's been hard to figure out because you get very close here. I'm maxed out right now, and you can see this is touching. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this, but as I go towards the back of the car, you can see this light kind of coming forward. I don't know if you could tell on camera, but it's releasing it forward and downward slightly. Okay, so now we have the rounds in one side and the squares in the other, and I don't want to go any further because right now they are adjusted according to my stops, the metal stops that are in the car. So I'm going to put the cover back on, and we're going to kind of do, or at least try to do, a comparison. I have these cars right here, and it's still daylight, but I'm going to try and do a visual comparison on screen at the plane of visually looking at the car. Sometimes people are looking down. If you're standing, a car is much lower than you. That's not really the perspective of these. These are going to be seen coming down the road from another car, so you have to be much more down when you take a picture of these, obviously, because they're shrouded by the headlight covers. So I'm going to put the headlight cover back on, and then we're going to kind of do a test light, and I'll show you with a split screen, each one coming up, so you can kind of take a look up close. But really, I'm going to try and get some car in here. My car is super dirty. Sorry about that. It's been in here along with laces. I have a video series of laces, kind of partway built. We're doing brake, suspension, exhaust, all kind of stuff. But anyway, so right now at the 140 millimeter mark, I just feel like they were a bit high, and you know, that one seems to be a bit more appropriate, but with the circles, they kind of tuck upward a little bit. So my stops have been revised, and I think honestly they're going to work for both sides. So let me put my stops on and show you the positioning that the new basically polyurethane stops give the height. So this is the opening height now with the new stops, and you can see it puts the squares a bit low. So I think the 140 is going to be good probably for squares because they're actually below the bumper line. But because of the way I had to mount these, this is basically directly looking at the car. So this is what it's going to take. So these stops are going to be specifically for the circles, but I will readjust new stops for the squares as well to make this even, basically. So like I said, this is the complication with the bezels. In order for me to make a bezel for everyone, I have to make it modular So I needed to know the positions of all these lights, and then basically decide. So I know I'm still kind of making it hard for you to see overall perspective of what this is going to look like going down the road, but I'm going to give you that in the next video. And then I'm also going to tell you guys how many of these I'm going to make and when they're going to be available. They are going to be ready to ship, is my intent, or within like a week or two of order at max. So I don't want this to go long. All right, guys, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up on that one. Just maybe a little bit more of a teaser. I have some work to do, some changes I want to make. The camera's overheating, it's slowing me down. As you can see, I'm sweating a bit. Some people are like, why are you always, you know, sweating out of breath or whatever? Well, you don't see that, you know, between me doing all the work, grabbing lenses, running in and out, setting the camera, then I hit record, I'm out of breath, running around sweating. So trying to get everything done. Obviously, lots to do still with the C5 Z06, lots going on with Lace's car, and I'm going to show you a little bitty glimpse here of some ZR1 stuff that I did. I ran into some ZR1s. One is gone again. I just kind of did a flip, and then I have one here. So love the C4s, guys. They're just totally in style right now. I feel like a lot of the shape and just the styling and the trendiness of the car just really came back strong in the past couple years. And so the C6, we got a lot to do on that. I have some product ideas in the C4 lights. Been very hard to develop, but they are coming as well. So we're going to knock this out. I have a lot more to show you guys on this car, and I'm going to try and keep it going with the videos. So I appreciate you. Leave a comment below. I always love to hear what you guys have to say and what you think about everything in your comments. Obviously, I'm very interactive with all the customers out there, and on the Facebook group, KnightDriveTV Corvette Enthusiasts on Facebook. That is where all the owners of the lights are, and obviously some people that just, you know, follow the channel and join. And lastly, you guys know I do have another light that actually fits in there. They're a little heavy though, so I'm looking into how I want to do this. But that being said, guys, lots ahead. I appreciate you watching. Catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching KnightDriveTV.